Hello everyone, this is Sage. Welcome to the Executive Corner Expert Talks. And today's special guest is Mr. 𝐊𝐴𝐴𝐴 Timor, the founding board member, or one of the founding board members, of Australia's Bitcoin industry body. And Australian Bitcoin maximalists have founded their own industry body recently, and the Australian Bitcoin industry body will advocate for Bitcoin adoption and acceptance, and only Bitcoin. Today's guest is also the Managing Director of Brisbane-based Bitcoin exchange, Bitrue. And he's quoted saying, "Many cryptocurrencies have absolutely no utility, no purpose, and are more often than not designed to entrap inexperienced investors, to pump the bags of their creators and early investors." So with us live today, we're very lucky to have Mr. 𝐊𝐴𝐴𝐴 Timor, one of the board members of the Bitcoin industry body. Welcome to the show, 𝐊𝐴𝐴𝐴.
Hi Sage, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for making time for 𝐊𝐶𝐼NE TV. It's an exciting time to speak to you as you have just launched. And can you share with us today the purpose of creating the Australian Bitcoin industry body?
Yeah, sure. Well, basically there are two goals. One is we discovered that regulators such as 𝐲𝐶 and other government bodies, they don't speak to us directly as members, even though we are licensed or registered with 𝐲𝐶. We don't speak with them directly. They speak only with industry bodies. And as the Bitcoin exchange in Australia had no industry body, then there was no way to communicate with them regularly and having meetings. So that was one reason. And the second reason is to be able to respond to articles in the media that are either having wrong facts about Bitcoin or confusing Bitcoin with crypto, with other 11,000 tokens that are out there. So that's basically the two goals of the Bitcoin industry body that we formed, yes.
Sure, sounds like a very important role to play in the growing sector. And 𝐊𝐴𝐴, Australia can be a little slow at times to pick up on new technologies, such as the rollout of electric vehicles. Some other countries have already witnessed Bitcoin ATMs popping up here, there and everywhere. When do you think we'll see such technology emerging in Australia?
Well, look, it's fun to say that Australia is a bit slow on adapting things. Sometimes it's true, not always. For example, we have here in Australia the NPP, the new payment platform, something that was actually, thanks to the RBA, we have it. It was a bit forced on the banks. And that basically means that any Aussie can transfer money or dollars from one bank account to another almost instantly. So not many countries have that. So we're not always slow. With BTMs, which is how we call Bitcoin ATMs, actually we have BTMs in Australia. We had them for a while now. They didn't exactly take off, as far as I know, because there is a rule in Australia that's one of the things that we look to change with the industry body, that there is KYC from the first dollar, from the first cent even. So if you want to buy Bitcoin, you have to do KYC, and also with BTMs. This is different than if you buy gold. Gold, you have like a threshold of $5,000 a day that you can buy without KYC, but for some reason with Bitcoin, there is no threshold. So people can go to a BTM. There are a few BTMs in Australia. There are websites that are even showing their locations, scan their driver license, insert cash, and get Bitcoin. It comes with a higher margin, because of the risk involved for the BTM operator and their margins. So sometimes it's just easier to go to an exchange and do that. So I think that's the main reason we don't see a lot of BTMs in Australia.
Okay, thank you for sharing your insights there. Unfortunately, there is a dark side to the internet and cryptocurrency, which people creating threatening scams, for example, to exploit the vulnerable. What is your opinion of Bcash? Some people confuse it with Bitcoin. How can people avoid scams in the sector, please?
That's a great question. I think people confuse Bcash or other forks of Bitcoin with Bitcoin because the people behind those forks want them to get confused. They claim that they are the real Bitcoin, and so far. Obviously, the market disagrees with them because BTC is by far the dominant coin, and definitely when you compare it to the other forks. But that confuses people. Scams are everywhere, and not just in the Bitcoin space or in the crypto space. There are scams with gift cards. There are scams with, phone calls, as if you owe money to the ATO. So unfortunately, scammers are in different areas. But in order to avoid people from getting confused between Bitcoin and Bcash or other Bs or other tokens out there, obviously we recommend and we suggest to people to go to Bitcoin only exchanges, and then you can't go wrong. There is only Bitcoin there. You can only buy, or if you're bearish or you're a trader, you can sell. But most people buy Bitcoin, and there are 6 Bitcoin exchanges. As far as we know, there are 6 Bitcoin exchanges in Australia. All of them are members of the Bitcoin industry body, and we welcome all Australians to go to them and to them only, to avoid being scammed or fooled or incentivized somehow to buy some useless token.
Do you think it's fair to say if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably good to avoid?
That's true for everything, yes. Usually 99% of the time, yes.
Yes, there's this famous saying in the stock market, there's no free lunches in the stock market, so do your own due diligence.
Definitely.
Thanks, Ethan. So scalability is an important factor regarding speed of transaction processing with crypto. Although some maximalists would disagree, this factor can put other altcoins ahead of Bitcoin at times. Will developers need to be cautious about how they build platforms down the track, as it could have regulatory implications?
Well, that's part of the misinformation that we're looking to tackle in the industry body. There is a layer 2 of Bitcoin. It's called Lightning. It is, as the name suggests, super fast. I can transfer to your Bitcoin right now and you'll get it within seconds. If your internet is slow, faster if it's decent. So we believe that there is nothing that a so-called altcoin or any other token can do that Bitcoin cannot do. It can either do it now, or it will be able to do it in the future using side chains, layer 2, layer 3, and so on. Things that Bitcoin is being developing. The community behind the developers community behind Bitcoin are constantly working. They're constantly developing. They're the biggest developer community. Part of the thing about Bitcoin is that it's truly decentralized. So it came as thinking that the governments will oppose it, and they cannot stop it. They cannot censor it. Governments can make regulations. It will affect the industry. It will not affect Bitcoin. China decided that no more mining in China. Okay, so a lot of miners switched off. Hash rate dropped, but you know what? Bitcoin still ticks. Every 10 minutes on average, we have a block. Sometimes faster, sometimes quicker, slower. But on average, every 10 minutes we have a block, and that doesn't change. So moving forward, I think Bitcoin will, outlive all of us.
It'll be interesting to see. Watch this space. And in your opinion, as there are only 21 million coins available on Bitcoin to be mined, we've just touched on this a little bit. Do you think this could be the last 10 years of Bitcoin? You've mentioned the layer 2 and layer 3. Could you expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, look, there will be ever 21 million Bitcoins because that's the code. So it's open code, everyone can see it. So that's, there's no question there. You do not need Bitcoins to be mined in order to blocks to be created. Currently, the miners are getting 2 rewards. They're getting the block reward, which is, every 4 years on average gets halved. Currently, it's 6.25 Bitcoins every block. And they're getting the mining fee. So all the transactions that they're adding into the block are actually, they're getting that as well. So I think there's another 100 years or so, 120 years maybe, until the last Bitcoin is mined. So there's time with that as well. But even when that happens, and this is a question that sometimes people ask, what will happen then? Then we believe that the transaction fees will be sufficient for the miners to keep on going. And if miners will switch off, then Bitcoin knows how to deal with that. There is it will just adjust the difficulty, and within 2 weeks on average, once again, it will be easier to mine, and anyone who will have a miner on, and I know people that no matter what they will have their miners on, then they will enjoy those fees. But this is very, as I said, it's another 120 years. I doubt anyone that is watching now this will see it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights. We're reaching the end of the discussion now. So how do you think the development of central bank digital currencies, or CBDC, will change the sector?
CBDC, yes. CBDC is the central bank's last stand and last attempt to fight Bitcoin. They're trying to replace cash with a digital form of cash. As I said earlier, we don't need that because we have Lightning, and you can now send instantly money everywhere in the world. That cannot be stopped, cannot be censored. There is no central authority. Nobody can tell you, oh yes, you can send to that person, you cannot, and so on and so on. And El Salvador, that Bitcoin is now legal tender there. Most of the use is Lightning. So if you have, let's say, family or friends there, you can just with 2 clicks of a button, you can just send them Bitcoin via Lightning, and that's it. So central banks are trying to fight it, but unlike Lightning and unlike Bitcoin, they will be able to see they will be able to issue as many fiat money as they want, which is what they're doing now, and they will be continuing to they will be able to watch it more closely. Right now, every transaction we do with our bank account can be watched and is being watched, and sometimes banks are obligated to give this information, exchanges are obligated to give this information. But with cash, it's still private. So obviously, they don't want that privacy. They want to know where you're spending it, how much. They could even put an expiry date, as trials have shown in China. So, as I said, this is their last stand, and they will fail.
Thank you so much again for sharing your valuable insights in our show today. And it's such an exciting space as the sector's growing and emerging into the mainstream. And we're very keen to see what the future of Bitcoin will be in Australia. And best of luck with your near-term goals with Bitaroo and the Australian Industry Board, Ethan. Thank you again for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And viewers, if you just joined us, we had a very enlightening conversation with Mr. Ethan Timor, one of the founding board members of the Australian Bitcoin Industry Body. And the full recorded interview is available, or will be available, at 𝐊𝐼𝐴 Media's YouTube channel today. And please stay watching 𝐊𝐼𝐴 for more expert talks and live market updates. And as we say, stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐊𝐿𝐼𝐴.